There's a certain crackle in the air when baseball conversation shifts from the obvious to the intriguing, from the headlines everyone's already skimmed to the whispers that make you lean closer to the screen. That's where we are today. So hey Blue Jays fans, welcome back, settle in, because this is Jays Latest, and I'm your host Craig Borden. Here on the Blue Jays Report, we don't just talk baseball, we let it breathe, we let it pace the room, and today it's tapping its fingers impatiently, daring us to keep up. We're stepping up to the plate with a full count and the crowd murmuring, because the off-season may be winding down, but the stories are just getting interesting. There's something poetic about this time of year. The calendar says winter, but the sport itself is already stretching, loosening its shoulders, preparing to sprint. Teams are making their final decisions, fans are arguing in comment sections like it's mid-July, and front offices are pretending they're calm while quietly sweating through their spreadsheets. For the Blue Jays, this is a moment of reflection and anticipation, a crossroads where the future keeps knocking while the present refuses to step aside. And if you're enjoying this conversation already, do me a favor, like the video, share it with a fellow Jays fan, and make sure you're subscribed to the Blue Jays Report, because this journey is better when we take it together. Out west, something unusual is happening, something that for years felt almost mythical. The Oakland Athletics, a franchise long associated with austerity and goodbye tours, are finally behaving like a team that wants to plant roots. As Las Vegas looms on the horizon, bright lights and louder expectations waiting patiently, the A's have locked up their young shortstop Jacob Wilson on a 7-year deal that feels like a statement rather than a footnote. $70 million, plus a club option on top, isn't just an investment in a player, it's an admission that stability matters, that stars are meant to be kept, not showcased before being shipped off. Jacob Wilson, for those paying close attention, doesn't play the game loudly, but he plays it beautifully. His bat doesn't scream, it sings. A triple slash north of .300 as a rookie, pop that sneaks up on you, doubles sprayed around the park like punctuation marks, and a strikeout rate so low it almost feels rebellious in modern baseball. 7.2%. That number alone would make certain Blue Jays fans nod knowingly, because contact still has value, even in an era obsessed with launch angles and exit velocities. Wilson's game feels old school in the best possible way, and as he continues his journey through Sacramento before eventually landing under the neon glow of Las Vegas, he represents the next wave of shortstops who don't just survive the league, they shape it. Watching deals like that naturally sparks reflection north of the border. The Blue Jays are no strangers to locking in talent, but they're also acutely aware of how fragile windows can be. Every extension signed elsewhere is a reminder that continuity is a weapon, and that the teams who marry patience with ambition tend to be the ones still standing when the leaves start to fall. It's a lesson worth noting as Toronto looks at its own mix of established stars and rising prospects, trying to decide which ones will define the next chapter. Meanwhile, another name continues to drift through the rumor mill like a storm cloud that can't quite decide where to break. Eugenio Suarez is still out there, power-packed and waiting, and someone in the American League East is going to blink. Projected salaries mean less than ever these days, not after watching teams casually step over luxury tax lines like puddles, and Suarez's but carries the kind of thunder that shortens games and silences crowds. Blue Jays fans know this all too well, having watched him do real damage when it mattered most, turning playoff moments into uncomfortable memories. Boston seems interested, the kind of interest that feels polite but non-committal, while whispers continue to swirl around Baltimore and beyond. Yet there's a growing sense that the Yankees, quiet to the point of suspicion this winter, might finally crack. You can almost hear the unease in the Bronx, fans restless, expectations heavy, the franchise aura demanding action. Apart from Cody Bellinger and a handful of minor moves, the checkbook has remained largely closed, and history suggests that doesn't last forever. Suarez in pinstripes feels like the sort of move that happens suddenly, without warning, leaving everyone else blinking at their phones. The irony is that even with this relative inactivity, projections still treat New York like a finished product, a reminder that reputation often lingers longer than reality. The Blue Jays know that feeling too, having surprised plenty of people by refusing to follow the expected script. Baseball has a habit of humbling predictions, and that uncertainty is exactly why we watch. If you're enjoying these league-wide storylines through a Toronto lens, don't forget to like and subscribe to the Blue Jays Report, because this is where those threads get pulled together. As the off-season inches closer to its end and pitchers and catchers prepare to report, attention naturally shifts inward. It's time to get better acquainted with the faces who will actually shape the Blue Jays season, and today that spotlight falls firmly on Anthony Santander, or Tony Taters, as is affectionately known, a nickname that feels less like a joke and more like a warning label. To understand what he might mean to Toronto, you have to rewind, not just to last year, but to the arc of his career. In 2024, Santander was a wrecking ball for the Orioles, an all-star season defined by 44 home runs, over 100 runs driven in, and nearly 100 trips across the plate himself. Those numbers don't just jump off the page, they shout. Yet they also came wrapped in a batting average that raised eyebrows, a reminder that production doesn't always fit neatly into traditional boxes. What matters more is what happened when he stepped into the batter's box. Pitchers felt it. In 2024, his batting run value sat firmly in the elite tier, a reflection of how consistently his at-bats turned into something useful, something dangerous. Dig a little deeper and the picture becomes clearer. Year after year, Santander has lived in that upper band of hard contact, barrels, and exit velocity. Not the absolute peak, but consistently well above average, the kind of profile that ages better than people expect. Injuries and inconsistency have interrupted him before, creating peaks and valleys that left fans guessing which version would show up. But the underlying numbers suggest last season wasn't a fluke, it was a culmination. Now, in Toronto, the challenge is different. He's not being asked to carry a lineup alone, but he is being asked to balance it. As a switch hitter slotting in behind Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Santander becomes an anchor, someone who prevents opposing pitchers from breathing easy once they navigate past Vlad. Without certain familiar sources of power in the lineup, that responsibility grows heavier, but it's also where Santander's value truly shines. There's a rhythm question too. Where does he play? How often does he DH? How do you keep his bat fresh without exposing his limitations in the field? The good news is that Toronto's outfield depth provides flexibility. Santander isn't a liability with the glove, just not a highlight reel waiting to happen. Around him, the defense looks increasingly athletic, increasingly confident. Addison Barger, in particular, feels like a player on the verge of something special, his arm already announcing itself from right field, his trajectory hinting at a future where comparisons to past greats don't feel ridiculous. Santander, for all his power, might also be remembered for something far more charming. That home run trot. Slow, deliberate, almost defiant. As if to say, yes, I know exactly what I've just done, and I'm going to enjoy every step. It's a small thing, but baseball is built on small things, on personality seeping through the cracks of routine. Fans connect to that, and Toronto has always embraced players who bring a bit of theater with their production. As this roster takes shape and the league settles into its final off-season posture, the picture isn't complete yet, but the outlines are there. Young stars elsewhere securing their futures, power bats hovering just out of reach, and in Toronto, a lineup quietly assembling the pieces it believes can contend. The tension lies not in what's missing, but in what might click. So now it's your turn. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What do you make of these moves and rumors? How confident are you in Anthony Santander being the stabilizing force this lineup needs? And which off-season storyline has you most on edge as spring training approaches? I'll be right there with you, reading, responding, and debating, right here on the Blue Jays Report. Until tomorrow, take care, and let's see where the next pitch takes us.